Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Enlightened Conversations, where we invite our hosts and guests to share their views on the world, work, and their personal lives in an enlightened way. This season, we're also looking forward to engaging more with our audience, hearing your enlightened views, and answering questions and topics you would like us to weigh in on. Today's episode is hosted by Michelle Lightworker. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Enlightened Conversations. I'm Michelle Lightworker, and I'm very excited to be catching up with a fantastic spirit on this beautiful planet, Amanda Hart. Welcome, all the way from the UK tonight for you.
Bless you. Yeah, thank you, Michelle. It's so lovely to see you again.
Yeah, it is. We were just having a little quick chat before we came on air, and we were having a little bit of a chat on when we last spoke. And it was years ago, before COVID, but so many things. And we'd had a couple of conversations on Enlightened Conversations, and we really connected so well and felt I remember energetically was just crazy. Just that symbiotic kind of feeling of purpose, I think, on this planet. And I think some things are going to happen today to unveil that a little bit more for us as well, to really, it just feels like whenever we cross paths, there's something really, really magical. So thank you so much for, inviting me to your recent group. And then from that, I went, oh my God, I've got to speak to Amanda. So on Facebook. So thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you for inviting me. And it's always such a pleasure. As I say, that it seems that you and I are doing something where we anchor each other at opposite ends of the globe, and we kind of work on a parallel. So it's really interesting just to have a quick catch up with you before this, just to find that we're both actually on a very similar path. So it's very encouraging.
It is indeed. And I'll introduce Amanda formally. For those of you who don't know Amanda, for over 25 years, intuitive consultant Amanda Hart has helped countless people to overcome adversities, to help them find their power and voice. Her memoir, The Guys Upstairs, changed the course of her life when endorsed by key experts in the field of domestic violence. Some may know Amanda as one of the finalists on Britain's Psychic Challenge on TV, or as a presenter on My Spirit Radio, or columnist for Soul and Spirit magazine. She has written a three-book series, and also contributed to 4 other titles as an author. Amanda speaks publicly about her story to help others make sense of theirs. And now, look, after recently marrying, Amanda's husband unexpectedly suffered a stroke. I'm so sorry to hear that, Amanda. We'll speak about that, which once again changed the course of her life. And in her upcoming book, A Stroke of Luck, she shares a powerful message of how when life presents us with adversaries, we have the resources within us to adapt, and to find solace in our authentic nature and discover solutions to the life changes that we need to make for the highest good of all. Thank you so much, Amanda. It's such a blessing to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And so the things that we were just discussing were, from my perspective, and I was just talking to Amanda about how much this is a really different stage of life for me, where I'm not doing things for remuneration at all. I'm comfortable, and I'm happy to just turn up to my day and what do I want to do with my time. And I was telling Amanda how much it's growing my soul to just reach out and connect with those people that I feel have something that I feel needs to be said, or I need to hear to grow myself, and also people that I love and feel a connection with and want to catch up with and have that on-air catch up. And also what I've noticed is, and it wasn't intentional, but it's like people who are writing books. I'm talking to them before they're even published. I know I've published a lot of my own, and writing and speaking is like a channeling experience for me. And I feel like there's some kind of resonance there with when people are writing their book now. I'm talking to them, and there's something that it's value adding in some way to that process, or something they have to say, or it's validating them, giving them that courage to shout it out loud. So I really admire what you're doing too, Amanda, with regards to helping people find their voice.
Bless you. Yeah, Michelle, it's an incredible time, actually. I mean, you might have experienced this yourself. I came into 2023 thinking, I'm going to take things easy. You know, I don't really have to work anymore. I don't have to work at all. I'm very blessed and very lucky, like yourself. And I felt that I was going to go down a path where I was going to commit a lot of time to my family and to my husband in particular, because recently he's had a stroke. And but there was this nagging feeling, and when I paid attention, it was like an explosion went off, and wow. I was reminded 2023 is a 7 year, so numerologically, when you add 2023, and by the way, it's a full moon for us tonight, very powerful one. It's huge tonight here in the UK. So you see this later. It was suddenly dawning on me that this is a year that's going to be very powerful spiritually, therefore there's work to do. And I kept attracting lots of people who were showing up wanting to share a message. And then I had this real impulse to get on and write, and it wouldn't go away, you know, when it just nags and nags and nags at you. Absolutely. And that's why I realized, okay, there's, you know, I've got to write this next book. And this is, I guess this has come about because there is this need to look at life and realize that, you know, it is precious. We can't waste time. There is something about this particular year being a spiritual year that's calling us to really resolve anything that we need to resolve, but also to fulfill our purpose. But it's also much greater than that, because out of the blue, women are coming to me and saying, you know, can I join your group? And you know, how do I get this message out there? And I want to write, and I want to you know, talk about my story. And so there seems to be this real community, this light worker community. Sorry if my computer keeps going off. I'm absolutely hopeless with technology.
It's okay. Didn't hear it, so it's all good.
It keeps pinging. Yeah, I don't know how to switch it off. But there is a community of women that are coming through, sharing a united message, but very individual, unique stories. And I just read probably about 10 minutes before I came onto the call with you, that a woman who's a publisher said there is not enough female authors out there. There's lots of male books out there, male author books, but not enough. But that is on the rise, and it makes you wonder why that's happening. And I think that's because there's this collective consciousness that's calling us all to serve our higher nature, our higher purpose, and that's often, you know, using our voice to share our message. So I think that's a real shift, and probably why we're reconnecting after all this time.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. And I was just speaking to somebody yesterday who we were talking about soul medicine, and what is our medicine. And I think that episode had to happen before yours. Yours was going to be scheduled before hers, and then it happened that I spoke to her yesterday, and it's jumped in front. And I feel this is an extension of what we were talking about, because if your writing is healing you, then it's healing the planet. It's also tapping you into the message that had to come from that healing, had to come from that process, had to come from that journey. And that is so different for everyone. It really is. And I was also thinking today, I don't set out to just talk to women, that is for sure. I love talking to men. And I'm just going, oh my God, I don't think I've had any men on this whole season at all. I'm like this, and I was thinking that this morning. I'm like, why is that? I really need to, and part of that sort of intellectualization part of myself is I really need to seek out some men now to balance the yin and the yang. But I'm just really not. I'm just going to let the universe dictate what this season is meant to be about. I really do believe it is about that so many people have their own special, unique thing they need to say, and it will be for their own healing. I feel that instead of competing with other women, then they're not, you know, because I think in the past there's been that wound around not embracing their own voice. So that when someone else is doing it, there's that bitchiness or that sort of kind of almost like the tall poppy system with women, that bitchiness.
Yeah.
I feel like now it's about, no, as I'm embracing my healing and loving my message, I'm embracing yours and loving you. And it's like that 100th monkey thing, like
That's
that
right.
we need more because that voice gets stronger as a collective.
Yeah. It's very interesting that publishing as well is changing. I think there's not the standard model anymore of just a big publishing house, and I've gone through different experiences with publishing. I'm sure you have as well, but and I was disappointed in the past because they wanted to water down the authentic, the message, which was it took away the essence of what I was trying to share. So I was holding on to that, which I'm now able to carry forward, and I will be publishing this book again. So that's quite exciting. And I've connected with a woman who was talking about publishing, and not just publishing the book, but also allowing women to go through a healing and learn from their stories. So their story is teaching them about themselves, and as they grow, they send a powerful message out to consciousness, and that's really important. I think often we need an anchor, and I think writing a book is an anchor. It's a tool to allow us to channel something that we're not even aware of from our subconscious, and that is not just a cathartic because it's helping us with our own healing process, but it really does touch the hearts of other people. Even if people don't read it, it's still connecting to consciousness and adding an energy that is actually creating some good. But every reader that it touches, if it's written from the heart and it's channeled from the heart, which is what you do, then it connects to their heart, which connects to consciousness. And it makes such an impact. Whereas we are taught so rigidly to write in a specific way, or that's the norm, which is, you have to get a degree, or you have to study, and you have to write it in a certain way, and there's logic to it, and you planning and preparation and all the stuff that goes with it. I think when you let it organically grow from your heart, then that's when you're bringing forward a true message, which is making an impact on the world.
That makes so much sense, because neurologically, in order for someone to learn something, you need to take them like by the hand like when you're educating them. So you don't jump from one concept to another concept, because neurologically, the way we learn is from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And so when you just expect people to be able to accept a certain concept like as an entirety without taking them on the journey of how you got there, it's almost like neurologically it doesn't connect. So how when we access them through the sentient or the astral body, which connects to the heart space, that then reflects in the brain. And as we're taking them on that journey of the heart, that neurologically it's not hard. They're not straining to understand. They're actually connecting to the feelings of us as we take them through our journey. And that is different from conceptualizing a book and trying to be smart and clever, because you're being much more authentic, and that authenticity that's driving you forward to tell your story is engaging the person. They're, I believe, energetically growing that aspect of themselves, and that's reflected in the brain. That's what I think. I haven't thought about this before. This is a completely different, like I know about learning because I've studied it and all that, but I've never really reflected that back to writing a book.
And it's interesting with you saying that, and I'm really glad we've got onto this subject, because as you grow with writing that book, and that builds faith, it builds trust that there is something coming through you, and from you. It also allows you to attract around you this synchronicity that is unfolding, because it gives you more opportunity. I think writers who channel suddenly realize that as they're writing, it's like an aircraft that's going from one destination to another. It doesn't go directly there. It keeps on changing its course to keep itself managing that trajectory until it gets to its destination. And that's exactly what happens with a writer who's writing from their heart. They start off, they have no concept of how it's going to really end up, let alone what it's going to do in the middle. But things start to come to them, opportunities, inspirations. We start to see the magic working as we start to pick out these little snippets that start to help us to make, take shape and form of this thing that we're creating. So it is something that's nurtured and loved, and that commitment really does have an impact with readers, as opposed to when we try to create something for monetary gain. And that's what we call a gift. So we can write, and yes, you may get paid for it, you might get great royalties, you might only sell 20 books, but it will hit the right people. Many people have, as artists have passed on and only then been discovered. So we don't really know where our books are going to land, where our messages are going to touch, whose hearts they're meant for. It's as a light worker, you feel it, you trust it, you do it, and let the result speak for itself, rather than us trying to direct that.
Yeah, I agree. And my husband says that all the time. He says, you might sell like 100 books in this lifetime, but who knows how many you're going to be selling next life, like in years to come, because people just are ready for what they're ready when they're ready for it. It's not about you. And it's often, you can be somebody that people research because you wrote that, and then all these things happened, and how did that person know? And that might help affirm their level of faith that, oh gosh, just, look at that. And it's not for personal gain, but if we're writing for a therapeutic process, I believe it's not selfish. I believe that as we heal the world, and as we heal, people come on the journey with us, and they actually grow that aspect of themselves, that mirror part of themselves. And I'm, really interested to hear more about what's prompted your current book that you're writing. Obviously in the middle of, or
yeah, well, yes. I mean, I've put it all together. I've created what feels right for this, and I'm in the process of writing it, and also talking to publishers about how this is going to work for me, because I don't want a traditional publisher. I want somebody who's going to help me nurture this, because it feels right to do it this way. But yes, I got to a point where I started to feel very resentful that my husband had this stroke. We'd just come back from our first wedding anniversary celebration, and it was totally out of the blue. We've got a lovely home, we've got a beautiful life together, we've got a wonderful family, we've got great friends. We just couldn't be more blessed. And then this happened, and it came out of the blue, and we don't know what the long-term outcome will be. So obviously my husband was going through huge upset and frustration. Myself, I had to kind of put that on hold and do whatever I could to nurture him and help him through this whilst going through that shock, which I'd parked. But then I got very resentful of it, and I thought, this is so unfair. Why is this happening now? And then I got this sudden urge that I had to face this. This is a crisis. What am I going to actually do about it? Am I going to worry that he's not going to be here in the next 1 to 5 years? Or am I going to make the most of every day? And it was at that point I suddenly realized that there were so many other things that I put on hold because I was procrastinating over them. I was too fearful of being heard in an authentic way. There were so many things that I had just parked. And I decided that I needed to do this. I needed to face these things and bring that to life, because I felt if I was doing that, at least I was living. I was truly living and not just hiding in the comfort of my blessed life. And that's what I decided to do. And that's what I'm doing now. And it's it's making an impact not just on myself, but it's also reconnecting me with some amazing people, but also with my husband and I, because we are now just getting on with life. And we don't know what the outcome is, but hey, does anybody?
Yeah, exactly. Wow, what a catalyst for a lot of activation for you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very powerful, extremely powerful. It's sometimes we don't know where we're hiding until we step into the next part of our journey and we go, oh my God, I was really hiding that aspect of myself, because comfort zones can do that. And I think we all seek comfort. We all seek safety. We all seek the preferences, you know, I've got everything set up, because I really do here. I've got everything set up the way I want it, you know, and then the universe says to me, like my little AirPod just fell off. I don't know if you noticed, it just went woo over there. And then the universe says, we want you to travel.
Yeah.
We want you to go. We want you to travel. So that's so, I mean, I love traveling, but it's just so out of your comfort zone. You're not going to have this. You're not going to have that. You're going to have the king size bed. You're not going to have the recliner chairs. You're not going to have the, you know, like all the big TV, 75 centimeter TV, the view of the ocean that I'm looking at right now, everything on foot, 5 minutes walk away, you know, like just all the things that mean a lot to my daily existence. No, you're not going to have any of that. You're just going to be wherever you're going to be, and you're going to be a portal activator, and you're going to end up where you're going to end up, and you're going to be pushed where you're not meant to be, and that's going to be your daily existence. I was like, hang on a sec, but I got all this set up, and now I'm being asked to do this. Just going to grab my earpod.
That's okay.
So yeah, I can relate to that. That you don't realize where you're hiding until you're pushed out of your comfort zone a little bit, or you're called. I don't feel like I'm being pushed at this point, but along the way, I feel like I may well be, but I'm feeling more pushed away from and called towards, rather than pushed into an uncomfortable space. I don't know. Yet to be revealed. It's in the planning stages.
I think that's okay as well, isn't it? It's good first just to be open to it and not try to sort of coerce it down any particular channel, so we can choose our uncomfortableness, because sometimes people do that as well, and they sort of wear it like a badge of honor and say, oh yeah, I'm doing this because it's really difficult for me now and I need this. But when you really are truly uncomfortable, then it's facing those fears, which are very relevant to you. They're not necessarily fear of, you know, I was speaking to my daughter yesterday, and she suddenly developed a fear of going into work again. It's only because they've been talking about her going on a course, and it brought up all those fears that she had when she was at university and going through lockdown, you know, trying to do a distinction, locked away in a tiny flat, not being able to get out, etc., with no companionship. You know, it was very relevant to her. And she said, I can't understand what's going on, Mum. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Sometimes we don't need to know. And she worked through it. You know, we do. We find our fears are incredibly relevant to us, but that's what gives us our growth, not anybody else's.
Exactly. And I was reading a post this morning that someone had been talking about how COVID had created like a frozen response. Like, you know, when you're in trauma and you can go flight or fight, a lot of people got angry. A lot of people got angry, very vocal about their preferences, put a lot of that anger, very reactive anger, onto other people, blaming, shaming, guilting, and all that kind of stuff. But what we haven't really spoken about is not that out there really, is that frozen response where in trauma you hold it in. And I think a lot of us in the spiritual industry that saw that kind of polar opposite behavior, where it's very angry, a lot of us were holding the energy of containment. And I think a lot of that for us energetically was so contained that we probably didn't even notice the trauma response we were having, that frozenness. And so I think post-COVID, we're actually thawing out a little bit, and we're going, oh, I'm afraid of that, or oh, that's what I'm really afraid of, or oh, what am I afraid of? Why am I avoiding that? Or we're starting to have our kind of, I think, post-COVID thawing out.
Yeah, I actually, funny enough, just before this call, I saw a message come through from a family member who's very socially anxious now. This is somebody who was very, traveled the world, entrepreneur, had a real passion for getting out there and making changes. And this is a lot of what I'm seeing. That it's quite interesting that you've brought this up, this thawing out. People are recognizing and taking ownership for it and saying, I don't know why, but I'm feeling socially anxious, so I don't like going out as much, or I like to know where I'm going. I don't want to go to new places. It's quite interesting how we've all collectively, at some level, even if we're not even aware of it, have created fears, because everyone must have gone through some kind of trauma, whether it be small or large, it doesn't matter, some kind of trauma which would have associated with some experience that we've never had before, because that's the nature of being human. And it is really important for us to own our stuff and say, okay, I'll be kind, I can deal with this, I can accept it, and in some cases, it's okay to change it too. But I think that's the thing. We don't want to force everybody to take ownership for their stuff and start making great changes. It's just that talking about it and just showing people that we have a story we are vulnerable to, that makes it okay for them not to be okay.
Yeah.
And that's one of the first books. I remember when I was on the radio show, when I presented for My Spirit Radio, I was allowed to interview, I got, it was lovely. I could read lots of books and interview these fantastic authors, but they all happened to be very well known and very well published. But I found this self-published author, and in those days it was, very rare for people to self-publish. And his name was Aaron Kong, and he wrote a book called It's Okay Not to Be Okay. And I read this, and it made absolute sense to me. And I thought it was the most incredible book, because it gave so much grounded advice to show people that it was okay. But when I gave it to the directors, they didn't want to have this broadcast, because it wasn't the norm then. It wasn't acceptable. It wasn't that they were wrong. It's just that we didn't do that. You only, it was only acceptable if you were from a reputable publishing company. And it really struck a chord with me. And I think that really anchored me into saying to myself, it's okay for me not to be okay, because for years I ran from what I didn't want to face in myself, or I wanted to, get as far away from the troubles that I had. So I was fighting always to try and find solutions. So it's, and I think sometimes we do, as human beings, we beat ourselves up because we don't find the solutions quick enough. But actually accepting, as soon as we start to relax, the solutions will come to us when we're ready. And I think a lot of this message that's getting out there, which are from people who are genuinely first-time authors, or somebody who just needs to share a message, or someone who just wants to inspire others because they've got something to say and they don't really know why, I think this is going to be the real impact that we have in this world. When we start to realize we're all human, we're all just trying to muddle through, we've all got our stuff to deal with, and we're all just okay as we are.
Yeah, wow. Thank you. I'm so many things coming through for me. Oh, feeling a little bit teary right now, actually. I think the thing that I struggled with, like, not so much at the time, but post-COVID, has been the repetition of people around my age. So I'm 52, people dying.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of death. I mean, I'm not. I think what's come up for me is I really, like you, want to take life by the horns and balls and whatever your heart and everything, and just like milk it as much as I possibly can, because I don't know how long I've got here. And it became really, and my mum passed as well. I mean, she passed quite young, really. 76 isn't really that old.
No.
And so, you know, for me, I feel like part of this is about, I think all my life I thought it's fine, I can, you know, travel whenever and whatever, once a year, but this is like almost like saying no, just don't even think that you'll be around. And then once I'd made this decision that I really feel like this is the next step, I got all these physical things happen to me, I believe, to get me ready and to also clear the way, because it's almost like one thing related to one chakra and the other related to the other and the other, and all my chakras, kind of everything on some chakra level of my body. And I feel like I'm getting rebooted to do this next step. So there's preparation. So I don't feel like I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, but I feel like there's preparation before I do it. And I really appreciate what you're saying, because I'd never thought about it before. But the reason why I got a little bit teary is maybe I meant to write about the journey. I wasn't going to do it to write about it, Amanda. I wasn't going to make it a thing. Like, it was just going to be the journey and the experiencing it. But maybe this kind of conversation is generating an aspect of purpose. But I'm feeling I'm going to document it in some way, basically, as I'm talking to you.
Yeah. And you say you're 52, so you're a 7 in a 7 year. So, you know, and it's like sort of putting that square peg finally in the square hole. It fits, and you start to realize that actually what you thought you were doing, actually it has been very relevant up to now. And then suddenly this new chapter just opens up in front of you, this opportunity, and there's no sort of rhyme or reason why it's happening right now, other than it's a timing thing. You know, we really do get this intuition that comes through to us, and if we pay attention to it and we honor it, despite how scary it feels, or despite how sometimes we sort of want to stand back from being vulnerable when we're authentic. If we honor what we're supposed to do, then we are very nurtured in that process, and being honest and authentic is actually the most empowering thing you can do, and that's what will empower others.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like they can feel it. It's not like something they think about. They go, oh my God, I can feel it's just there, you know. And to anybody who kind of, you know, if you're around somebody, you're just not sure if they're telling the truth, it's kind of usually that they're either not telling the truth themselves, they're not like being authentic to themselves, not necessarily going out of their way to lie to you, but it may just be that they've just not connected with their authenticity yet. And we need to trust that, because if we hand our power over in relationships to people that aren't being authentic yet with themselves, then what are we handing our power over to? We're handing up, like, you know, power over to a lie, like, you know, really. And that can help us take our power back and go, well, instead of kind of worrying about if they're being authentic or not, I'll just tune into my authenticity as much as I possibly can and find that, follow the bouncing ball to that for myself, and connect with my intuition.
Yeah, it's incredible when you do actually resonate with that, and you suddenly realize that what you thought was your authentic nature hasn't been. It was just your survival kit, and that's absolutely fine.
It's fine.
Many people don't understand that they're not really. It's you know, this is the curtain that they've put in front of them because they've got to protect themselves for a reason. That's absolutely fine. It just doesn't mean to say that that's wrong. But it feels so freeing when you finally say, oh, I don't have to do that anymore, and I can be myself, and I can just express how I feel. I have a mantra that I teach my clients, and whenever people get to a point where something's troubling them and they're challenged by life, or there's somebody saying something that they're not happy with, or they feel threatened in some way, I always say, because consciousness always works in the present moment, rather than just getting overwhelmed and swept up by the moment, stop and just ask yourself, what is going on for me right now? And when you do that, something magical happens, because you're talking to your authentic nature, which is your subconscious, which is connected to consciousness through the heart. And at that moment, you often get, more often than not, you will get a message as to what to do, what it's about, and what action you need to take. Because we too often get swept up with things, with challenges and dramas and other people's stuff, because we think, oh gosh, well, it's just because he's doing that, or she can't help it because she had, a bad life, or, well, that's just the way she is. There's always something in it for ourselves to stop and say, what's the message in this for me? What's this teaching me? It's either about being able to say, actually, I can detach myself from this drama. This is not mine. I can see what's going on here, and that's fine. You can do it in non-judgment, or it's giving you an opportunity to change something. So it's either an action or non-action to take. And I really believe that when we take the time just to stop and be here in the moment, rather than getting distracted by time schedules and our phone and social media and everything that we've got to do on our to-do list, then we really truly are living our authentic nature.
That's beautiful. It is very, very much how a very grounding method to just come back to that present moment and check in with you and ask yourself, what is really going on for me? And then by asking and being curious rather than otherly focused on everything outside of our control there, it really does invite that strength and that intuition and the next thing that we need to do, and that groundedness and that calm to come back and go, okay, well, that's enough for now, right? We let people off the hook as well. And I think we can be kinder to people in their messiness, instead of trying to sweep the messiness up or make it better, because we can no, that's okay. It's okay not to be okay. Like, it's okay. It's actually okay. Your not okayness that you think is not okay at that moment is actually perfect. And when we actually genuinely feel that, because we can detach and look at that for ourselves, that's very powerful. It's extremely powerful, Amanda.
Yeah. As light workers, you'll know this. The thing that drives us is to want to make light out of darkness. We want to help people to overcome their adversities and find their true natures and find the light within themselves. But often that's not, we have to find that discerning balance, don't we? We have to know when to help and when not to, and that takes years of mastery. I remember years ago I was in Egypt, and I was somewhere
I want to go.
Yeah,
it's a saying, somewhere I want to go. Or it's calling me.
You are going there. And I was going through a lot of growth at that time. And I remember this woman, she was very ill, and she had to run back into the hotel off the coach because, she was just not able to travel. And I ran in after her to go and help her. And I said to the woman who was organizing this, she can't travel. She can't possibly go to the next pyramid, because we were doing a tour of all the pyramids. And she said in front of everybody, she said, Amanda, step out of the drama. And it was like a slap around the face. And I'll still remember that today, because actually I was so caught up in the drama of wanting to rescue her and make her all right, and also let them all know that I had this compassion for this woman. So there's so much ego riding there as well. So there was a multitude of lessons I learned that day.
Love that.
So it was a real slap down. Come on, pay attention to what's really going on here. So and she did actually manage to get back on the bus, and she did manage to continue with it, but they had grown enough to be able to see that, and I wasn't at that stage as a light worker then. I just wanted to make everybody better.
And I think like, as I'm listening to you, it's a great story. And I've had my experiences too, where I had a friend when I was in my early 20s, it happened and taught me a lot. She confronted me and she said, I really care about you and I love you as a friend and everything, but when I share how I'm feeling and you try to fix it and rescue me, I feel broken and I feel shame. And I went, oh, holy crap. what? I don't want my friend to feel like that. And so I really learned a boundary on, don't try and fix things unless somebody asks your opinion, like just, step back and let them be in their process, and for that to be enough. And that was a beautiful lesson for me. And as I'm hearing us talk about this topic, I'm feeling on a bigger scale with light workers at the current time, with the consciousness we have, and stepping into what we know is functional, what we know is not, and what we know is toxic, what we know is healthy, and what we know is flowing, and what we know is it's not flowing, and dark and light and all that. And we get the picture. But I think what our challenge is actually finding an acceptance on another level, that those processes of darkness actually need to happen. People need to walk through those. And to be able to not be so quick to judge the process of something, whether it be a war in another country, or it be a person who's trying to exit a DV relationship and they're not ready, one of our friends, or or we need to find our challenge as light workers, I believe, is to find the patience and compassion and acceptance for the process without enabling it, but being upfront about it, sharing our views, but then also being at peace with the process. And it's extremely hard to do that if we feel we know best, we know more, we know the information, we know what will happen, all those things are quite spiritual elitism and arrogance. And so we go to the other extreme in our spirituality, where we're the know-it-all, rather than the understanding it all, but also being at peace with it all.
Yeah. There's a real sense that rather than being leader driven and this, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of great coaches, there's a lot of great mentors out there. And what I'm feeling is that there's more of this coming together of all the different the hierarchies that have been built by humanity for the sake of helping show the way to others. And I think we all have a story. It doesn't matter whether it's, the elderly lady next door, or a young child of 5, or the person who stands on stage speaking to 4,000 people. Every message is relevant, and it's always relevant to the people that connect with it at the heart level. So we can actually look at all of this and say, well, okay, do we need more leaders in the world? Do we need more inspirers in the world? Well, we all have an inspiring message, and by allowing people to come through and share their story, and I think this is, you and I are encouragers of this at this moment in time. It's giving permission to people finally to let this voice come through, and their voice is connected at the solar plexus level, and I call this the T zone. So the visual is here, the clairvoyance, you've got the clairaudience, and it cuts through here in the middle down to the core of us, the very epicenter of us, which is our solar plexus. And all of this connects once we allow the voice to come out. It's like, at last we're all singing, all dancing, because we've allowed it all to connect. So our voice could come through by speaking, or singing, or writing. It doesn't matter, but that's the encouragement I feel is coming through for you and I at this moment in time, which is allowing people permission to say, okay, I've got a message, I don't know who it's connecting with, but I know it's relevant.
That's beautiful, isn't it? And not to do it for any personal gain, I think, is really important. So make sure you're supported financially, not dependent on this to make you money. Just do it. Because if you do it and it unveils itself, it will lead to the next thing that you need to do for you, and also it will heal the planet, and it will heal people that won't actually, not everybody will get it who see it or hear it, because that's not meant for them. But it will still affect the entirety of the planet. So even if they don't get it on that level, they'll get it on an energetic level. So just know you are doing a public service that's completely invaluable in your own unique way. And it's also, the threads of that just go everywhere. And I've had people kind of come back to me and go, oh my God, when this changed, that changed, this changed, that changed, and then that affects that person. we don't know how many people it affected. Like really, it takes the ego out of it a bit. And then we're not depending on it for our self-worth either. Oh, how many followers do I have? How many people like me? How many people get what I'm doing? It's irrelevant. You do it, and it actually, it's like a big uppercut to the universe in a good way, for lifting the planet and the consciousness collective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as I say, we've connected through the group again, and this is, something's shifting with all these women, so and who are coming forward and reaching out. So it's lovely that we can share this. I definitely want to share this on the Empowering Women HQ group. So, and it's been very timely, as I say. It's just very powerful tonight, anyway, because there's a full moon, and whenever we connect, there's always some real relevance. So yeah, I'm very grateful we've had this conversation tonight.
There's so much in it. There's just so much, and I really appreciate you and applaud you for turning up and continuing to turn up, and for being your authentic and self and connecting with it. It really is inspiring to me, Amanda, because I really didn't think I'd have any more books in me, to be honest. So I don't even know if it will be a book. I'm sure there's many books, but what I've been really enjoying is turning up and writing and continuing to write my blogs and things, like my little posts on Facebook and stuff. But what I'm sensing is that there's more to this story. So it'll be interesting the next time we chat, to see where it all goes. I'm looking forward to the next one already.
I feel there's a real chapter in this for you, which is a deep dive into something that's going to be very revealing. And there's lots of things that are going on around this. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where we're at.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for joining me so late at night on your end as well. I know it's early as the sparrows fart over this way, but it's lovely to it's lovely to make the time to talk to people who are on the same page as you. Pardon the pun. We've been talking about like books, but thanks, Amanda, and enjoy the rest of your evening. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on Enlightenment Conversations. We look forward to the next episode, whatever that one may be. We're not sure yet, so we'll let you know when we know. Ciao for now.